bet that looked really cool.
Oh, that did look cool.
Freaking love it. For those of you who are not watching our video, you should be.
Because Aiden's hair is fabulous.
Because I just got my hair dyed. I've been talking about doing this for months and months. I've been thinking and scheming about doing this since I started going blonde. So
I know, yeah, it's
been so long.
That's why I wasn't expecting, because every time you've had a hair appointment, you've just retouched up your blonde.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting this today. But I love it.
I almost match your corgi.
Yeah, he's not quite that red. He's a little more ginger.
I'll be a little more ginger in a couple of weeks.
You are you ready to introduce us?
Yes. This is Living Your Authentic Life. I'm Ada.
And I'm Emma.
And today we are doing part 2 of dreams.
Yes, which we're really excited to get into.
Yeah.
Into a little bit more depth.
This one I think will be a lot more theoretical and a lot more... I mean, last one was quite theoretical.
Yeah, we're talking about some pretty outlandish stuff, but genuine experiences that we've had. And I think it's fun to explore this kind of stuff. I'm sure we're by no means the only people who are listening to this podcast that are interested in dreams and have had some weird and wacky experiences. So yeah, it'd be good to dive in a little bit deeper into the darker side of things.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it'll be good. It'll be an interesting conversation.
Before we begin, I wanted to check in with you, Aiden, to see, have you cried yet since our reconnecting with crying episode?
I haven't had like a deep cry, but I've had a couple of those moments that you mentioned where like the emotion hits you and you kind of feel that like...
That love-filled, happy...
No.
Oh, no.
Like the really like intense feeling of like emotion overflow on a couple of occasions, but I haven't had the opportunity to like properly cry and connect with it. Or I guess I made a couple of attempts, but there was that feeling of like, oh no, is it gonna stop? Do I actually have time for this cry right now?
There's always time to cry.
Not when you're sitting in the office trying to get work done and your work neighbors are just doing their job. But yeah, so I haven't had a proper cry still. But I'm noticing those moments where I should be paying attention and kind of like keying into what's going on.
Yeah.
And yeah. So watch this space. We'll see if it happens.
We'll see. We'll keep checking back in with you. No pressure or anything.
Y'all, send me like the saddest shit. Just like send me all of the sad or really like love-filled, happy. Like I need some sort of emotional overload.
I think it'll happen naturally. I don't think it's about forcing it upon yourself.
I recognize that, but there's just like it feels like there's a lot of pressure now.
That's my fault. I'm sorry. There's no pressure. But yeah, I think it's surrendering to those moments where you want to. And I get it. Like if you're in the office, it's probably not going to feel like the right time, but yeah, other moments maybe. I keep coming back to when I'm driving because I do that a lot. Obviously, I don't let myself go too far because I need to see and not crash. But I do because I just have so many moments when I'm driving where I'm thinking about something, or for me, it's just seeing like sunlight, shine through like tree leaves, or just having that moment where you just feel so blessed and so grateful to, Australia is such a beautiful country, and
that's so true.
Although Sydney is expensive and we still haven't been allowed to, have permanent residency just yet.
You'll get it.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful to be here, and that just overwhelms me with love sometimes. Something that I was just thinking about the other day, that I started doing this intentionally a couple of years ago, because I still very much have those moments of not wanting to be here. If I'm being perfectly honest, I can still fall into depressive mindsets where you kind of think, I'm trying to love life, but today I just rather wouldn't be here. You know, I'd rather not exist.
Yeah.
And something that really helps me, that I started doing a couple of years ago, because you'd think about, I'm a massive sci-fi and fantasy fan, and you think about when you see these movies or series that have these different worlds and they look so cool, right? And maybe they've got like purple skies and 3 moons and, you know, and you look at all that stuff and you go, oh my God, that's so amazing. That's so much cooler than Earth. But that's because we know Earth.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to flip my perspective and look at things as if I'm from a different planet and it's my first time seeing them. And like just looking at a tree or the color purple, or a car driving around on the road and just being amazed by like how wonderful that is.
Have you seen those text posts that's like alien anthropologists that are like coming to Earth?
The little
and like
memes?
and
love
it's just like
those.
about like an alien who's like exploring Earth for the first time, or like interacting with a human for the first time, and like the weirdness of humans to be able to like interact with other species and like cohabit with other species, i.e. having dogs and like cats and things like that. And like the human's ability to like kind of emote towards anything, so like love for like a Roomba, right? And like like we've named our Roomba. I feel like it's part of our family. She's just doing her best, and like giving it a gender, and like connecting with like the littlest things. Like the ability for humans to do that is incredible.
It's awesome. And I think when you can be proactive about putting yourself in that mindset, it just makes being alive so much more enjoyable, and you realize like this is actually really fun. And if all there is to life is for me to come and live this one life, which, you know, I believe we'll live many, many lives. But if you're of that belief that you're born and you live this one time and then that's the end of your kind of experience, that's still so cool. Getting to like pet a fluffy dog and drink a coffee and like sit on the beach and feel sand in your toes, like all of those little moments that we can so easily take for granted and so easily forget that we're here to experience that stuff, and not being present and getting so wrapped up in the stress and the horrors that go on in the world, and, you know, the mundaneness of day-to-day life. You can forget about how wonderful it actually is just to look at a tree. I really love trees, so that's why I keep using that as an analogy. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that with everyone today, because I think if we all did that a bit more, we'd, one, realize how cool our planet actually is, or remind ourselves of that more often. And 2, I think it makes you care more. I think it makes you care more about nature and like what we're doing to the planet. And obviously we need more and more of that. And I think there's 100%. Many souls that are working really hard to find ways that we can live with our planet, not just taking from it all the time. So,
and huge shout out to Gen Z, because I think that they're like really spearheading that. Gen Zs are like, they're crazy in a way that millennials aren't crazy. And they have something in like the Gen Z spirit is just so gung-ho about kind of living hard and fast and putting all of their effort into like protecting the planet, like Greta Thunberg does so much and has influenced so many people
from such a young age.
I know she's still a kid. It's impressive. It's incredible.
I'm really excited to see what happens with the planet. Again, this goes back to one of our earlier conversations. Like, I have full faith in humanity.
Yeah.
We're gonna rally, and we're gonna do some really good stuff and not go down this dark path that I think many people think we are going down. Anyway,
I definitely have quite a bit of cynicism. I don't have that much faith in humanity, but I think that if we can do it, it's going to be the next, like, the younger generation that does it.
Yeah.
And pulls us all up.
I think we're on our way. But at risk of going off on another tangent.
Okay, we lasted like a solid...
What are we at? 11 minutes. That's not too bad.
We reined it in pretty good. Although, this is the quickest that we've ever diverged from, like, the point, I think. Like, we got 30 seconds in, and immediately we're off topic.
But it's good stuff, too. The viewers want to hear this stuff. This is what you come for, right, guys?
Drop us a comment. Let us know your favorite tangent of ours.
Yeah. Like, pick from the huge list. I do have one more tangent that I want to go off on.
Okay.
Just before we start, because I think this is super cool. I was listening to, one of my favorite podcasts, The Diary of a CEO, just yesterday, day before, and he was interviewing a brain health specialist. And she was talking about the things that you can do to make, I think she calls it, make your brain big, fat, and fluffy, which I love. She had a wonderful personality.
I love that.
I'm sorry I don't remember her name, but I can absolutely put that down in the show notes. But one of the best things you can do, and I think this is just so important to get out there, one of the best things you can do for your brain health is go for a walk. And they did this study in, I think it was a group of 65-year-olds, and, had the people who did little to no, like pretty much less than 30 minutes over a whole week. And then people who walked regularly. And so they found that people who walked 30 minutes 3 times a week had a 30% decrease in chance of getting dementia.
Oh, wow.
And this was just a 6-week study. So she then went deeper into how wonderful exercise is for the brain, and particularly the prefrontal cortex, which is like our decision making, being able to, change and adapt in your daily life. Like when you're driving, right, you've got a lot of decision making to make there. And if you think about it, it's the same when you're walking. If there's other people coming towards you. For me, I have one of my dogs is reactive, so I'm always looking around to see if there's other animals around or other things that he gets triggered by. You can actually, that really makes a lot of sense that you're utilizing that part of your brain, and it gets bigger and stronger. And particularly doing exercise before an activity where you need to speak and communicate and articulate yourself, like we do on this very podcast. So I took my dogs for a nice long walk before our podcast today, because apparently that's going to help me come back when I've gone off a tangent, come back to my original point, and be able to store all of that information in my head and make sure that I'm actually getting to properly articulate the points that I want to make. And if you do go off, being able to come back in and tie it all together, which is something that I feel that I specifically need to work on, because we go off on so many tangents. And just me in general, whenever I have a conversation, I tend to do that constantly.
I'm the same, and like I'll be carried off into a conversation without thinking about the fact that we need to get back to a point. Like, so easily I'll just be like going along. Like I'm in a little rowboat and the current's just pulling me.
Exactly. I mean, when you're chatting with a friend and you've got, hours and hours to just hang out and catch up, it's fine, right? But maybe in certain situations,
hey guys,
we could do, because that's something when I watch other people podcast, like Dr. Tara Swart, who is a neuroscientist, turned, entrepreneur, business coach. Like, she's just fantastic. And something that I note when I watch her speak is that she's fantastic at doing that. And so just clear and concise when she speaks. She gets her point across so well. But I noticed she'd always like, but I want to come back to this point that we were speaking about. And it's within a minute or two as well. So she doesn't let the tangents go too far. And this was months ago that I was watching her, but it was something that really stood out to me. And I was like, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe
walks are the
thing, or any exercise. But apparently the more you do,
the easier it gets.
The better, yeah. And even like more intense, actually, I think, aerobic exercise. So not necessarily the super crazy HIIT class, but just walking, a light to moderate, I guess, exercise session. It can be pretty much anything you want. She said, go for gold. Like if you've got a favorite sport, tennis or running, whatever, like do that. Yeah, climbing. Basically do that, especially before you need to communicate with other people and articulate yourself. So I thought I'd share that because I think that's a fantastic tool to have.
That's so good. I'm glad I rode here instead of driving or taking the bus. Because that's you have to be quite switched on for riding. It's dangerous.
Especially in Sydney.
It can be quite dangerous if you're not kind of paying attention.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. That's good to know. I'll try and ride more often on my way here.
And walk. Well, not you don't have to walk here, but that would 2 hours take you a little bit too long. Okay. Shall we delve into the depths of dreams?
We absolutely should. And shall.
We wore our Udis especially for this episode so that we can be nice and cozy while we're talking about all the scary things that have happened.
Because we left off talking about nightmares and like stuff like astral projection. I don't think we really, we kind of delved into a little bit. And talking about sleep paralysis.
Yes.
Which is a bit of an intense place to leave off, I think.
It was, yeah. But I think if we would have kept talking, that episode would have been 3 hours long. So.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So let's jump back in then.
Yeah.
And I'd like to start off with an experience that I had. And Ada knows quite well about this because she afterwards became involved in another way, which we'll get to later. We'll
definitely talk about it.
So I have had, I believe, two different encounters in what I believe to be an astral travel, like an astral projection during my sleep. Now, as I mentioned in the previous episode, I don't have nightmares. And I think I did mention just a couple of those dreams that I'd had when I was younger that were quite intense and seemed scary, but when I look back, actually they weren't. Maybe just a bit creepy. Yeah. These two, however, that I'm about to talk about, these two were like nothing I've ever experienced before. I feel now I can tell the difference between being in like a dream state and being in like an astral travel. So the first one, I was in what honestly looked like a rundown old castle. And this was the other thing. There was no start to this. I was just thrown into it. And there were people running around everywhere. And I knew I needed to help them. And I had to get them through this door. And there was this, I guess you would call it like a demonic figure, that almost like that classic kind of Satan looking, hooves and claws but tall, like a man. And so I'm getting people through this door, and I remember feeling relatively calm at that point. Like I didn't feel like I was in any danger, but they were in danger.
Yeah.
And I was there specifically to help them. And then this demon thing gripped its claws into my back, and the searing pain that I felt. So it was like behind me, and at that point I was asleep in my bed on my side, and in this astral state I'm punching over my shoulder to hit this thing to try and get it off me. And the way that I came out of that, because I did actually wake up punching over my shoulder, but the way that I came out of that, this was what really drew my attention to it, and what made me actually initially start looking into astral travel is I feel like I got pulled out of that so quickly that, so it all came back, you know, like when an old TV, you turn it off,
Yeah.
and all the light would go into this tiny circle in the middle,
Yeah.
and you'd get this little like sound, this like,
Yeah,
that
it's like
kind-
that weird kind of like fuzzy sound as well. Like it kind of like has a little bit of like a weird like after effect.
yeah,
ringing to
like
it?
a static ringing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain the sound, but I'm assuming people know what I
Yeah.
mean. If you're our age or older, like you know what
Yeah.
it sounded like when you would turn off those old TVs. And it was like that. And what I think about that is that was my consciousness coming back to my brain so quickly and so abruptly, because I also got this massive flash of light.
Yeah.
And I just remember sitting up, you know, punching over my shoulder and feeling so jarred to be back in my body. And this was before the dream that I spoke about last time, where
Yeah.
I felt like I had been through this like dimensional shift.
Yeah.
So I hadn't yet had that experience. It was as if I was just slammed
Back into your
back.
body.
And I told a few people about this, and of course started doing my research, but it really hit. It was such an intense experience and I'd never had anything like that before. And it wasn't so much the interaction with this demon, it was that getting pulled back. So I feel like when we're dreaming, I actually believe a lot of the time we're off astral traveling and we just don't necessarily believe in that or know about that yet. And that experience of, because it was so abrupt, I felt like I got to experience what actually happens. Whereas when you're dreaming and you're slowly starting to rouse, it's like your consciousness is drifting back into
Yeah.
your corporeal body. Whereas that time it's slammed back.
Yeah. Reminds me of that feeling of that sensation of falling where it like jerks you awake.
Yes, yeah.
Was it that sensation? Was it-
Times 100.
Okay.
Times 100. I still to this day haven't had that happen so in that way again.
Yeah.
But funny you should say about the falling is I've always experienced that as probably
Yeah.
everyone has. And I do believe that that's your consciousness like drifting away, and then maybe your body moves or something and it kind of pulls you back. And that would be a little bit more like a,
Yeah.
you know,
and it just
like
kinda
a tug.
It's like a small little like jolt.
yeah, and
Right.
your physical body kind of goes, oh fuck, what was that?
Yeah.
You know, whereas in this situation, yeah, it was like times 100. Instead of just like getting tugged back, it was just,
Like you were shoved into it.
yeah, well, I say shut like,
Or like yanked quite.
it was almost, yeah, like yanked back into my I think because my physical body started acting out what my
Yeah.
energy body was acting out in that dream,
Okay.
that it obviously just collided so quickly. That's my best guess.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
best guess. So, a while after, this could have been, maybe even 6 months after this, I'd never, not had any more of those interactions. And the next time I'd been meditating in bed. And again, there was no start to this. I just appeared to be dropped into the middle. And this time it was the flip side, is that this time there was a group of people around and I was the one that was in trouble, because I just heard these people, I don't know what they were saying because it wasn't that clear, because it was just getting dropped into it, but they were trying to help me and they were talking about something that was trying to get at me. And the next thing I knew, I felt this dark energy, pretty much inhabit my body and lift me up into the sky. I've never had this experience in a dream where I don't have control over my body. That other one where the demon got its claws in my back, I could still move. I could feel his claws in my back, but I could still move. This one, it was I had no control, nothing. So a little bit of feeling of helplessness there, but the interesting thing is I still felt safe. And I think that's because prior to this, I'd spoken to one of my very spiritual friends about the last experience I'd had, and she had said to me, you are always safe as long as you believe that you're safe. Nothing can ever harm you in those realms. And I think maybe just having that knowledge is what got me through this relatively unscathed. I know, again, it wasn't a panic.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm up in the air. My hands are like this, and my legs are kind of dangling down. You can't see on the camera, but my ankles are pinned together as well. And then these people that were there are around in a semicircle, and they were shooting beams of light out of their hand at me, but the demon that was inside of me. And that probably went on for 30 seconds, and then I just dropped, my body dropped, and I woke up. But the really interesting thing was I woke up in this position on my bed. And guys, I have always slept on my side. I'm not a back sleeper. And funnily enough, my partner had fallen asleep on the sofa. So this was 3 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up in the middle of my bed, with my arms pinned back like this, and with my feet in that exactly, kind of like Jesus on the cross. That is literally the position that I was in.
And I already know this story. And the reason that I already know this story is because I want to say it was within days of this before.
It was 2 days before.
Yeah. 2 days before, I had been at a church small group. And around this time, I was doing quite a bit of research into kind of Celtic mythology and Celtic symbolism and Celtic heritage, because unrelated, but my family was talking about getting a family tattoo in a Celtic, an old Celtic written language. And so I was my curiosity was piqued and had been doing that research. But I was at this church small group, and we were talking about that sensation that you get where God's kind of calling you towards reaching out to somebody or speaking with somebody. And we were kind of doing our end of the evening prayer, and I had this sudden sensation that I needed to do something for Emma because she was going to be compromised in some way. And so I was driving home, and my head was filled with kind of these urges and this sensation. and thoughts about kind of some of the stuff that I'd been looking into. And I had been I'd been researching sigil work, which I recognize now is outside of my scope, and I probably shouldn't be dabbling in this sort of thing. It's not really something that I believe in, or that I feel is necessarily a safe thing to do without having
understand.
Yeah, without knowing what it is that you're getting into, right? Like I was dabbling, and I probably shouldn't have been, but I had the sense that the Holy Spirit was telling me that I needed to do this specific sigil. And I got home, and like a woman possessed was kind of doing research and like kind of trying to figure out like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing here? Like what is God calling me to? What, like, is this definitely God? Is this definitely the Holy Spirit that's telling me to? And the resounding yes of like, this is what you should be doing right now. Even if it's outside of your scope of practice. And I hastily drew together like this little, what is called protective sigil. And it was a sigil for safe passage specifically. And I drew it like really sketched and messy and sent a picture to Emma, and I said, hey, don't know what's going on with you right now. Like we haven't really been in contact in a couple of weeks, but I felt like this needed to get to you.
Yeah, I remember your message was like,
it was so out of nowhere. There was no connection to it.
Yeah, you were just like, I got a really, really strong message that I needed to do this for you. And you sent me a picture of what you'd drawn.
And you didn't respond at the time.
No, because I don't know if it was like...
It was so late at night.
At night.
I'd sent it at like 11:30 maybe.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if I opened it then or if I didn't open it until the next morning. And, you know, I said thank you and everything, but in my head, I was like, oh, I know that I'm always safe. You know, like I said, I'd had these conversations with a friend of mine, and it's just so funny because initially I was kind of like, oh, thanks, Aiden, you know.
Cute.
And literally, I think it was actually that evening then.
Yeah.
That it happened. And when I came out of it and I found myself in this fucking creepy ass position, like Jesus on the cross, the first thing I did was turn over, grab my phone, send a message to Aiden at like 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And say, and I was just like, I don't know how you knew this, but something really like intense just happened to me. And I think the fact that you sent me this is really important. I like obviously needed it. And then I got my notebook and I tried to like copy it out, and I like put it under my pillow. And Aiden has since gifted me a really lovely, you know, redo of it on some nice paper, and also made one for my partner.
And that's the last one that I've made.
Yeah, well, maybe it was just meant to be that one thing. I think it was just so weird that you got so overcome to do this, something like, you'd never done before.
And I don't...
The day before, the night before even, like, you know, it was like 24 hours.
I don't have a lot of compulsions like that, but I felt so compelled to that and so like intensely drawn to that in a way that I don't know that I really have before. Yeah. And it was intense for so soon after for you to be like, this actually might have been like the thing that...
Yeah, because like I do truly believe that I'm always safe, but the fact that happened, there was obviously a reason that you needed to pass that on to me, and I'm of the full belief that it played a role. It had to have. And you know, I'm very grateful for the fact that it happened.
It really felt in kind of drawing these, it felt akin to like, you know, I don't know if you would actually know. So do you know about the spiritual gifts from the Holy Spirit? Mm-hmm. There's like the gift of wisdom, the gift of prophecy. One of them is the gift of speaking in tongues and interpreting tongues. Mm-hmm. And this felt like a written version of that. It felt like I was writing some sort of like, it felt kind of akin to like an angelic language or something.
Yeah.
Similar.
Because we don't know what that symbol means, right? Like, I know you kind of craft it out of certain letters.
Yeah,
don't
so
you?
it's taking the letters of like the intention,
and
utilizing the letters of the intention and kind of symbolizing them and creating a symbol.
Yeah. Because it may well be that like literally just me viewing that encoded that into my consciousness to then have that within this experience that I'd had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought it was so funny, and I felt quite almost like a bit ashamed of myself afterwards, because when you first sent it to me, I was kind of like, you know, oh, silly Aiden, like she doesn't know like that I'm safe and I don't need to worry about anything, and to have that experience pretty much immediately after.
And I've told you before about like
with like gratitude for you.
And I've told you before about like my sense that like there's some part of me that's here for like protection of others, and I think that
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. I've always had the sense that like I've got like very strong dedication to my people, and like a strong sense of connection to my people, and a strong sense of like protectiveness for my people. My family, obviously, my close friends, my husband, like all of these people that are kind of integral to my life. I feel like there's a sense of me being here to protect them, and I feel like that might have been the moment for protection for you.
Yes, yeah, because we'd had a conversation about this one time when we were hanging out at the beach, and
ages ago.
Yeah, I think it was kind of shortly after that time we'd had a bit of space, and then we'd reconnected, and I think it was like the time after that we met up, and so I was now talking really quite openly about some of the experiences that I was having during my sleep state, and the fact that I was starting to believe that I've been astral traveling my entire life and I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And I remember like, I don't know, almost I think I was almost trying to like encourage you to do the same, and then you were like, oh no, because I actually believe that I'm, you know, and I'm talking as you as Aiden, you said something along the lines of that that you have this deep feeling about that being like almost dangerous for you, and that you're here to be like this grounding kind of protector for your loved ones. Which when we then went on, you know, months later to have this experience together is obviously very true. And the fact that you love rocks so much.
The reason, guys.
You love rocks.
I took like 3, that's when I got the sandstone rock.
Oh, that you did? The one that you were going to hide from Nick? Because you bring so many home. Your husband is like, don't bring any more rocks home.
I have permission now. Nick has given me permission to
because you have a house, not an apartment.
Well, yeah, and because we need to like block off the little underside of our house from our pets getting out.
Yeah.
With stones and big rocks.
Great. You're gonna,
Yeah, but that was the time that I got the sandstone rock. And I hid it in our house for 3 days, and then I can't keep secrets, so I like told Nick. Notice
I'm
anything?
feeling guilty.
I lasted longer than usual. Like
I remember even offering to keep it at my place so that you could still come and look at it. So funny.
Lord,
anyway, back on track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so after this experience then, I really wanted to learn more about it. Because of all the experiences I'd had, those two separate ones were the most intense and felt the most dark, and I was really wondering about, okay, well, what can actually happen out there? And like, you know, I think there's a bit of a divide in the spiritual community about protection and, you know, you need to do this, and oh, your family's cursed, and da 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 da. And then there's the other side of people that are like, no, like nothing can harm you as long as you believe that.
Yeah.
And okay, so I really started to do some research on this, and there's a guy called Aaron Abkay, who I think would be really interesting to talk about more as well, because he comes from a religious background, and I've mentioned him to you a couple of times. I think it was after watching that video. But of the videos that I watched, he was the only one that really, I think, answered my question, and I did very much resonate with what he said. It felt, when I hear things that feel like I'm remembering something rather than learning them for the first time, that's when I know that it's resonating with me, and that that's the truth for me. And he explained it like this. It is true that dark entities cannot harm you. However, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. They can't harm light beings, right? And also there's different planes, almost if you think of it, you know, if you were going from a shade of black to a shade of white and all those shades in between, if you think of those planes, like they can't even get that far up into the plane that a light being would be on. Now, at this time, I was doing a lot of meditation. I was really focusing in on my expanding my consciousness, raising my vibration, raising my frequency, you know, being of that light, beautiful vibration of love and gratitude and you know, all of those wonderful things. So he did say that those dark beings can't exist on that plane, right? Because the frequency is too high up there. Like they can't, their frequency is so low. It's like when you get a really, I don't know, depressed or angry, volatile kind of person, they're not gonna be able to interact with someone who's like,
yeah,
you know, super spiritual and has this beautiful light energy. You almost see examples of this. The most recent one was, you know, the stabbings that happened in Westfield in Bondi.
Yeah.
So there's a video of this. I haven't seen it myself, but my friend was telling me about it, and she said that there was one guy that stepped in front of the stabber and basically just held his arms open, and this guy with the knife almost like didn't look at him. He's like this, and then like kind of runs off to attack someone else who's running away because they're in like panic mode. They're in mode, yeah, and that lowers your vibration and your frequency. And she was saying like it was almost like he couldn't see this guy. Like obviously he could physically see him, right? Yeah. Obviously.
But there was something that
but there's that energy there that like, and this is why again it's so important to work on keeping like raising and then maintaining a high vibration, because it is a level of protection. It is a level of protection in this physical world just as much as the, you know, spirit, energetic world, whatever you want to call it. And so he was explaining that what can happen is that these darker, lower vibrational entities can meet you on certain planes, and they can try and scare you to then turn your light energy because the more light energy you have and the higher your frequency, that's more powerful, right?
Yeah.
This higher frequency energy is more powerful. It will feed them, but they've got to first transmute it into dark, lower vibrational energy. So they can come into your dreams or your nightmares or meet you on these particular planes, and you might be having a lovely time, and then all of a sudden everything starts getting wrong and scary, and because they're turning your light energy into dark energy and then feeding off that. So they cannot harm you. They can't do anything to you, but they can feed themselves by transmuting your big, powerful energy. So the more big and light and beautiful your energy gets, the less likely it is that they're going to be able to access you.
Yeah.
But some entities will be drawn towards that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They'll be drawn towards it, and they're going to
pull for some.
Yeah, because they're going to be like, if I can get them to switch this around, I'm going to have a really good feed, essentially.
Have you ever read the Screwtape Letters?
I have no idea what those are. No.
So the Screwtape Letters is a book. It's written by, what's the guy who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia? It's not Tolkien. Close friend of Tolkien. I'm
not going to embarrass myself by making a guess because I'm not great with
I feel like
authors.
it's a terrible Christian not remembering his name. C.S. Lewis. He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. He is a Christian theologian who wrote the Screwtape Letters, which is a series of letters written from the perspective of a devil who is trying to corrupt a human soul. It's so similar to what you're talking about, only with Christian theology behind it, of the battle, like the angelic and demonic battle for our souls, the spiritual battle for our souls that's happening every single day. Temptations, the devil. Anything that draws you closer to God, that's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And these letters talk about, it's a obviously fictionalized interpretation of the demonic perspective of attempting to corrupt a soul.
Yeah, so what it's like to be in their mind, why they're doing it, how they're doing it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. And the pull for like demonic greatness for themselves if they can corrupt a soul. And if they can take that from God's army.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting because how I kind of visualize this, I'm a very visual person, so I like to kind of put things into pictures in my mind. And how I visualize it is like humans if you just imagine this line, right, of light. Again, let's go for like a sliding scale of like black is at one end, so the absence of light. This is dark energy, and the opposite end is white. And then you've got that sliding scale from going to, dark grey to light grey. Now, I feel like humans are around that like middle,
the neutral zone.
Well, we're in the neutral, and then we've got people that are more towards that white light, and then people that are more towards the dark light as an overall. But then we also, of course, we slide through those, we drop down into that third dimensional way of thinking every time you express, anger and volatile emotions, and because it brings you out of that place of love and harmony and all of that. So I think of this like sliding scale, and I think of every emotion, and therefore thought, action, state of being, has its own frequency, and you attune that frequency with a particular color on this sliding scale, right? So let's say anger is like a dark gray kind of emotion, and something like kindness is a almost white, you know.
Yeah.
So whenever we display these emotions, we're then attuning ourselves to this frequency of whatever shade that is on the sliding scale.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if, you know, in that darker side, there's that greed, you know, for like power.
Like the 7 deadly sins.
Like the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, greed and lust and all that kind of stuff.
Sloth.
And at the other end of the scale, you've got things like unconditional love and forgiveness and all of that. And that kind of, in my head, the way that I've pieced it together makes me think about that. Kind of explains this, you know, age-old tale of the battle between good and evil. And to go even deeper into that, I no longer look, although we still use these words like bad and evil and demonic, and I believe that each shade on this scale is energy, a different frequency. And we have named, you know, the ones at the lower end of the scale. So again, even I've just said the lower end of the scale, but there's no lower and upper end. There's just different points on this scale.
Yeah.
We've named them as this bad thing that we want to stay away from. Which of course you would say, well, Emma, why would we want anger and violence and all of that stuff? And then that brings me to the progression of humanity that we need, and that's what has helped me come to terms with like all the things that happen in the world that are sad and that are terrible and painful, is that we need that to then come back around to those lighter scales and to create like that. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make after this very long ramble is that when you can look at the world as like, this is a different form of energy and it's necessary for the bigger picture, which in one short, tiny human life, we can't see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But how many of us, there can't be one person who wouldn't be able to relate to this, is that some experience you've had in your life that's been awful, but somewhere down the track, you've been able to look back at that whole journey and gone, I understand now why that had to happen. You know, or you look at someone starting a business, right? And it's this mountain and hurdles and falling down and getting back up, but you learnt something when you fell down, and so you get back up and you have a new thought, a new creation, a new manifestation that then brings more into reality. The more we dream, the more we invoke new thoughts of things that have never been thought of before, never been dreamed of before. That is how the universe expands. And when you're of the belief that I am, that we are the universe experiencing itself, that's why it is infinite and there is infinite possibilities, because we have to go through these ups and downs for it to expand, to continue experiencing.
It's interesting. I can respect your position for sure. I don't think all of it resonates with me, but there is that sense of like, the experiences that I've had have shaped me into the person that I am today. And even the bad experiences, even the things that I still feel a lot of grief about or strain when thinking about, I know that without those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am.
Yes.
I wouldn't have kind of learned the lessons that I've learned. I wouldn't have the strength of character that I have. If, for example, if I hadn't gone on my own spiritual journey and kind of denied my faith and started seeking, I never would have had the desire to, I guess, create that sigil that I did for you, because that would be completely off limits.
Yeah, if you had always stayed in that
If I'd never
Christian
learned
path
about any other religion or any other practices, then I never would have had any of that, I guess, dabbling. But it also probably wouldn't have brought me here. I wouldn't have met my husband. Or if I'd met him, I wouldn't have been interested in marrying him because he's not Christian. So if I had, I guess, not gone through some of the things that led me on the journey that I was on, I don't know who I would be or where I would be.
Exactly, you'd be somewhere else. And I think one of the flaws in humanity is that we look back and we go, oh, if this would have happened instead of this, I'd be so much happier. But you just got no idea. Like the whole butterfly effect thing. Like you have no idea what can happen.
And I don't think that I've ever had that sense of like, I wish that this hadn't happened. I mean, that's not entirely true, obviously. Shortly after a trauma or a traumatic experience, I'm probably one of the first things that I would think is, I wish this hadn't happened. But the further that I get, the less that I have any desire for anything that's happened in my life to have changed in any way.
Yes.
Like I have such this sense that I am where I'm meant to be. I am on the path that I'm meant to be on for my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want any of it to change.
Exactly. And I think the big secret is, but it's not a secret, it's like, how do you get to that point, right? How do you get there where you still want things in life, of course, because you still want to progress and grow and achieve, but you're in love with your life enough that you can look back at everything prior and go, no, because I'm so happy with who I am. I'm so happy with where I am and what I have in my life. I wouldn't want to risk changing anything to alter that.
Yeah.
And I very much feel the same. Like something I chose to let go of many years ago now was regrets. And I still make a joke about this. Probably the only thing that I ever struggled to not regret was cutting off my hair. It was because I went through such a painful time with it, but also at the front of my mind, like I absolutely know that there are lessons that I've learned from that and there are experiences that I've gone through because of that. And I think now my hair's grown enough, I can kind of be like, you know, I'm over it, and like I don't think I regret it anymore. But whilst I was growing my hair out and I was struggling so much with my identity, it was hard. Every time I looked in the mirror, I felt this sinking, sick feeling of like, I wish I hadn't done it. And then I'd say, but you know, you do everything for a reason, and da, 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 da. And then I'd be like, oh, but I really wish I hadn't done it. But everything else in my life, I let go of many, many years ago. And yeah, there has been nothing else apart from the hair cutting that has made me even remotely second guess myself and say, I regret doing that. And I think if people can figure out how to get there, which hopefully maybe we can help with in future videos, but I think if you can figure out how to get there, like life gets easier because you stop thinking about all the things that you could have done, and you start living more in the present.
I agree. I really agree. I feel like we should do an episode just on like identity. And
that is so weird because 2 days ago when I was walking, that's exactly the thought I had, because I've been having a few thoughts around this, and I was like, we should do an episode on identity and like when you have an identity crisis and like coming out the other side. So it's so funny that you've just said that.
I've had so many identity crises, so I definitely think that should be one of our episodes to discuss.
Yes.
But again, that should be a different episode. So I think we've ended at a pretty good place. We've done quite a bit of discussion about astral projection and kind of nightmares, and obviously got into like a bit of a philosophical debate about
obvious stuff.
Theological debate is more like
why the universe is the way that it is.
And the the spiritual battle for your soul.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me get that out, by the way.
Yeah.
Because this is something I really love to talk about, and I don't think I've ever articulated myself quite so well. I hope when I listen to this back that I still think that, because it sounded like I was making a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, the way that you discuss it feels so akin to like theological debate on like the battle for our souls.
Yeah.
And I think that you'd be very interested in some of that. I know that you're not Christian, and this isn't a conversion tactic. This is similar to the journey that I went on, in that I think I truly value learning from other religions and other kind of spiritual paths.
Yeah.
And I think that the stuff that Christian theologians have, the research that's been done from a Christian perspective would be very interesting to you.
Yeah, well, you'll be pleased to know that you are making me more and more interested in this, because for many, many years I had no interest in learning any more about religion than what I had done in school, which I did really enjoy, by the way, even though I was a proclaimed atheist at the time. But as I've gone through the spiritual journey, and seeing people like Aaron Abke, who have come from a Christian background but have found spirituality, and instead of just then ditching their Christianity, have found ways where they actually mirror each other and maybe just explain the same thing but in different ways, and tying these, stories and weaving them into a tapestry. And I think you are doing that too. And I feel really blessed to have that influence in my life from you, from a trusted friend. And yeah, I'm really interested in learning more about it. Again, as you say, not because I'm going to convert myself into Christianity, but I think the more we can learn and be open to anything and everything, and you don't have to take it, you don't have to then convert yourself. But I think the wisest people are the ones that do that. The wisest people are the ones that listen and learn with an open mind.
100%.
Yeah, very, very interested in doing that.
Good. I can't wait. I'll send you so many resources.
All right. Let's put the big intense conversation down. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting to listen back to for me. I feel like I'm going to get pieces of your story that I'm not resonating with now that I might resonate with more, which is something that I'm finding as we're uploading and editing and doing all of the behind the scenes work for you guys. Yeah. And when I'm listening back to it as we're releasing episodes, I'm really feeling like I'm finding more, personally finding more from each episode that...
Yeah, likewise, because I think when we're here and we're having the conversation, we've still got an inner monologue going. We're still thinking about oh crap, we've gone off on a tangent. How do we get this back on track? Yeah. So a lot of the times when I'm listening back, I'm hearing stuff that you've said that I didn't properly pick up on beforehand.
Likewise.
Yeah, so it's super cool, and I haven't listened to last week's episode yet.
Neither.
It will be last week. Yeah. When we release this one, and I want to listen to them back to back.
Me too.
Because I think it'll be interesting.
Because we've taken a week from the last recording, just because there wasn't enough storage space to record back to back.
Yeah.
But I'm very interested to see kind of the back to back narrative that it tells. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys have had as much fun as we have today. And as always, thank you so much for joining us. We would love if you could like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and it lets us know that you guys actually like listening to us.
And give us feedback. We crave feedback. We've gotten some lovely comments and responses, and want more. We want to make sure that we're kind of still engaging you guys. If you find a topic interesting and want us to talk more about it, let us know. If you've got your own experiences that you want to share with us, please share.
Yes, please do. Comment. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple. I think that's it for now.
Yeah, we've got an
Are we on
Instagram
Google
page.
Podcasts?
I tried really hard to get us on Google Podcasts, and for whatever reason, Google told me no.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know how to,
Fuck you, Google.
how to change their mind.
But yeah, and we do, of course, have our email as well, livingyal@gmail.com.
That's livingyal@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram.
And yeah, I think we're also...
We've got a Facebook page.
We've got a Facebook page.
We've got so much stuff, guys. This is going to get all neater and neater. We're going to tidy this up, this whole end monologue for you guys.
We're figuring stuff out.
But we've got so many resources that we would love to share.
Yeah, and yeah, we really, really would love to start hearing a bit more from you guys with your experiences, particularly as we get into the more weird stuff.
Tell us about your dreams. Tell us about your personal beliefs in terms of the battle for your soul.
Are you religious? Are you spiritual?
Yeah. Do you think that all of this is a load of crock? And do you want to come onto the podcast and tell us about it?
Oh, yes. Yes. We will be soon starting. Soonish. Starting with guest interviews, which we are incredibly excited for. We've already got some fantastic people lined up for you guys. We're just waiting on a few logistics to work out with a recording space. So you won't have to listen to us talk forever, which may be a welcome reprieve.
No, they love us. They love us.
Yeah. We got it. I choose to believe that. Yes.
Yeah. It's God's honest truth. Because we said so.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop now.
Yeah. All right, love you guys. We will see you next week, maybe for some identity talk.
Yeah. See you then.
Bye.